My wife doesn't respect me and humiliates me in front of my friends, but somehow she can't believe that I've reached the tipping point in our marriage and called the lawyers. My wife and I have been together for almost 20 years, and our bedroom has been on a slow but gradual decline for the last 15 years. We sat down and had the talk a few months ago, where we hashed out the details of trying to rekindle the spark we once had. One of the main things we both agreed upon was the need for date nights, as well as other things. Things seem to improve, albeit only marginally. Again, I'm the one initiating things, and 90% of the time I get shot down. The usual excuses followed, i.e., too tired, not in the mood. The child is awake, he's 18 years old, not feeling very well, and my personal favorite, we can't as you've got to be up for work early in the morning. Anyhow, we persisted with the date nights out of 9 that I organized over the last 2 months. My wife canceled 7 of them often without notice. Some were even planned weeks in advance when she'd breeze in after her work shift and announce she was going out with her friends. When I mentioned the date night we had planned, she claimed she'd simply forgotten, despite it being marked on the calendar on the fridge again, her idea. So on to this weekend, I've spent the last 2 weeks setting up a date night, a whole weekend away, a suite in a 5-star hotel, dinner at a fancy Michelin star restaurant, tickets to the theater, even shopping for some fancy clothes. When I picked her up after work, I told her I had a surprise planned, and she immediately started protesting, saying she had things to do. I assured her everything had been taken care of, including clothing. She calmed down, and we set off, though the atmosphere in the car was cold. She cheered up when she saw our suite at the hotel. Saturday, we went shopping ahead of our evening plans. Later, she emerged from the bathroom looking absolutely stunning in a dark blue evening gown, matching lingerie, heels, and perfect hair and makeup. My jaw dropped. She looked as beautiful as our wedding day. Dinner went well despite minimal conversation. We headed to the theater where I'd arranged for mutual friends to join us. During intermission, I reached over and placed my hand on hers to ask if she was enjoying the show. To my shock, she snatched her hand away like she'd been bitten by a snake, looked me in the eyes and told me whatever I was thinking would happen back at the hotel, I could forget it. Her words dripped with disdain, loud enough for others to hear. Our friends didn't know where to look. When she needed to use the bathroom, something inside me snapped. I apologized to our friends, told them I was leaving, and headed back to the hotel. My friends texted that they'd told my wife I left, and she just shrugged. Still seething, I packed my clothes, caught a taxi to the train station, and took the last train home. The next morning, I relocated to the guest room and went to IKEA for new furniture. My wife noticed my belongings missing from our bedroom, but said nothing until later when she asked why I was being so childish. I explained about the canceled date nights and her outburst at the theater. She shrugged and asked if intimacy was all I cared about. When I mentioned her attitude about the surprise, she told me to deal with it. Later, my wife's best friend Beth contacted me asking what happened, as my wife had only told part of the story. After I explained everything, Beth was shocked and asked about my plans for our anniversary trip to Paris. I told her I'd canceled it because of the theater incident. My wife still hadn't apologized, only claiming she may have overreacted slightly. Beth called my wife on speakerphone and confronted her. My wife gushed that she knew I'd get over it, as I couldn't say no to her. Her mood changed when Beth informed her I'd canceled Paris. I consulted a solicitor about separation and divorce. When my renewed passport arrived, my wife asked if Paris was back on. I snapped that it wasn't and never would be. When she questioned why I renewed my passport, I explained I was using my saved vacation time to visit a friend in California. She was speechless. When I returned from work one day, I found her sitting with Beth at the kitchen table, looking like she'd been crying. I placed 2 envelopes before her, one containing separation papers drawn up by my lawyer, the other a list of marriage counselors. I gave her an ultimatum to choose one before I left for the US, warning that option 2 would be removed if she screamed at me, and option 1 would be automatic if I discovered she was seeing someone else. Upon returning home, I found numerous messages from my wife, starting with empty apologies that grew increasingly threatening when I didn't respond. I called to let her know I'd landed and was stopping at my mother's first. On the phone, she seemed overly sweet. When I arrived home, she practically tackled me with affection, acting as if nothing had happened. After some small talk, I asked if she'd decided about the envelopes. She scoffed, saying she thought I was just being childish and throwing a tantrum. When I insisted I was serious, she smirked and told me to stop being stupid and get over it. Taking this as her answer, I called my solicitor to make an appointment. As I wrote down the time, I caught my wife staring daggers at me, her face red with anger, verge of either having a stroke, heart attack, or both. After I'd finished the call, I turned to face her, and before she had time to say anything, I told her she'd made her choice and that I was serious about it. Later, I heard on the phone sobbing to her best friend about the situation, asking for help on how she could fix the situation. I couldn't hear the other half of the conversation. From the sobs my wife was making, I could only assume that the advice wasn't what she wanted to hear.